So welcome to our final craft morning as we make our Christingle together. So today you need to open your last craft pack, which says Christingle on it, and it's got all the contents listed on the outside. So be careful again, opening up your final packet. Maybe you'll do it neater than me. There we go. Inside your packet today you'll have an orange with the red ribbon already wrapped round the edge, signifying Jesus' death and blood, his death for us. I would have got you to put the tape on yourself, but I didn't know a safe way to transport it to you, so I thought it was easier for me to do that. Now, as you can see, it's then a good idea to take that little top bit off. You might be able to do it with your nail like I did, but if you take the top little tag off, then it stands up, and then you just need to make a hole in the top. Now, I'm not suggesting you do this. I'm suggesting you get an adult to make that hole in the top using a knife or scissors. Then you need to push the foil in with the glow stick, signifying Jesus, the light of the world, and us reflecting with the foil his love to this world. Then you need to open your packet which says cocktail sticks. We stick the cocktail sticks north, south, east and west of the orange to signify that God covers all the entire universe. There's nowhere we can go without God. Also signifying the seasons, winter, summer, autumn and spring, which is the one I missed out, signifying that God is with us all year round. Now you can see I'm keeping the dolly mixtures, I'm warming them up in my hand. The best trick I ever had with dolly mixtures, when I normally make the Christingles for everybody, is to put the dolly mixtures on the radiator. But you don't want to put them on the radiator in foil, else they'll be too hot to open. But maybe try and warm them up on the radiator or in your hands. It's always a good idea to warm the dolly mixtures up because then they stick on to the cocktail sticks without breaking in half. So that's why we've warmed them up. Then I've just spread them out there. Then I'm going to take each cocktail stick off the orange, pin, you can just about see what I'm doing, pinning the dolly mixture onto the cocktail stick and putting 2 dolly mixtures on each stick and then returning the stick to the orange. Now do be very careful because cocktail sticks are sharp, so I don't want any of you hurting yourselves on the cocktail sticks. There we go. That might be showing you, I don't think you can see that very clearly, but the sweet has cracked because it wasn't heated up enough. But I just, as you can see, squeezed it back together and it's okay and it's on the cocktail stick. You just need to put the second one on again, on your third cocktail stick, and put it in. And then take your final cocktail stick. There we go. And there you go. There you have it. Final cocktail stick with the sweets on. Sweets signifying God's blessings to us. So there we have our Christingle for this year. And now I'd like to read to you the second part of our story. Now if you remember our story so far, Albert had made an orange to help him not be so forgetful, and he'd fought with Obadiah. Obadiah had got cross with him, I should say, and the orange had bounced out of the doorway. Now the orange and its bashed candle, squinted red ribbon and squash sweets and fruit had landed inside the throne room of God Almighty. The one place you didn't often go and the one place you didn't leave oranges in. Well, not the orange that Albert had brought to the exam room. An orange with all those bits in it, on it and around it. It was Obadiah who spoke first. "You stupid little angelet, go and get that thing out of there now," he ended with a crescendo of noise. Albert looked scared, amazed and curious all at the same time. He was scared of Obadiah when he spoke like that. He was amazed that the orange had survived the tussle, and he was curious as to what the throne room was like, for he'd never been inside it before. Get that thing out of there before anyone sees it, hissed Obadiah. When he said anyone, what he really meant was God Almighty. But he couldn't bring himself to say such a thing. It was a bad enough thing to think it. Albert crawled towards the throne room. Quickly, shouted Obadiah. Albert scampered to the door of the throne room and went to look for the orange. When he crawled inside, he nearly forgot why he'd gone there, as he was amazed at the colours and the beauty of it all. But he quickly stopped looking at the room and looked for the orange. He looked all over for it. He was on his hands and knees, scrabbling about, looking everywhere for it. Why is it, he thought, that when you lose something, it's never where you think it is? Is this what you're looking for? Albert looked up to see the face that no one ever saw. He was staring into the face of God. He gulped and waited for instant extermination, for that's what he'd been taught in class. He remembered that. No one could see God and live. Obadiah looked in through the door. He pulled his cap over his face. He was bald. His hat wasn't a fashion statement, as it turned out, but that was hardly important at this moment in the history of heaven. And began to think all the terrible places he could be sent to serve. That's Obadiah, with his hat over his face. This was the end, surely, of him. Albert, of everything. I'm curious as to what this is, asked God, as he held the orange in his firm but gentle hand. Albert tried to speak, but nothing came out, just a squeak. Come on, Albert, it's okay. Do stand up and tell me what this is all about, said God in the most gentle, warm voice Albert had ever heard. Albert rose to his feet, his head bowed, his hands behind his back. He felt so small as he stood in front of God. He was very small compared to God. Albert began to speak, but his mouth was so dry he couldn't make the words sound correct. The only sound that came out was a mumble. Speak up, Albert, I can't hear you, said God, in that velvet, chocolatey kind of voice that made you feel as though you were being wrapped in a warm blanket and relaxing in a warm bath all at the same time. Well, I needed, Albert began to stutter his way into some kind of explanation. Obadiah was on his knees in the doorway, head bowed, hat in hands, praying silently for mercy. Go on, said God. Well, you see, I'm so terrible at remembering anything. I knew I needed help in my A-levels, so I made this orange. God interrupted Albert. Made this orange? Are you sure? Well, not made the orange itself. I realise that's the sort of thing you do. Albert had looked up at this point, but then quickly lowered his head when he realised what he had done. I took the orange and put the candle in and put the ribbon around it and stuck the sticks in with the fruit and the sweets. They were to help me remember, explained Albert. Remember what? Asked God. Albert now was feeling very safe, and to everyone's amazement he explained what this orange and all its bits was about. Well, I know how important it is to understand what you've planned for the world, and this helps me to remember. The orange is the world. The sticks have the fruit and sweets to remind me that you've filled the world with good things for everyone to enjoy. The candle is to show that your son, Jesus, brings light into the world. And the red ribbon is to remind me that he saved everyone. When Albert finished speaking, there was a very long silence. Obadiah, Ezekiel, and the crowds of other angels and overseers simply gazed at Albert, all with their mouths wide open, as if they were a giant crowd of chicks waiting to be fed by their mother. Then God spoke. Well done, Albert. That was very good. I am impressed. Albert felt his chest rise and he looked up. He saw into the face of God and he was smiling. A smile of sunshine, laughter, and all your favourite sweets mixed together. Ezekiel looked up. So did Hezekiah. So did everyone else, including Obadiah. In fact, Obadiah was starting to cry, although afterwards, when the story was told in all the angel places, he never said he cried. just that the dust from the floor had caused his eyes to water. But everyone knew that wasn't true, because there isn't any dust in heaven, and especially in the throne room. But everyone let Obadiah think what he said was correct, because everyone thought Obadiah was a kind overseer. "I think you'd better go and sit those A-levels now," said God. Albert nodded and started to walk out of the throne room backwards. He simply could not stop looking into the face of God. "Haven't you forgotten something?" asked God. Albert stopped and gave a silly smile and said, "Thank you." "No, I mean this," replied God, holding up the rather sad-looking orange with all its additional bits. "Oh, yes," said Albert, and he stepped forward to take it back from God. God gave it to him and smiled again. He turned to Obadiah and said, "Look after him. I think he'll be a very good angel." Obadiah bowed and said he would, although he wasn't entirely sure how Albert could make a good angel. But if God said that, then who was he to doubt such a thing? Albert continued to walk out backwards, his head high, his mouth open like a fish. Then God said one last thing. "I still think you've forgotten one very important thing." Albert stopped again. This time he was totally lost as to what that might be. He said thank you, and it wasn't that. He'd taken the orange back, so it couldn't be that. He started to think so hard his head began to hurt. Obadiah looked up and looked down very quickly. He knew this newfound ability as an angel wouldn't last. Albert was just too forgetful. "You've forgotten to light the candle," said God. "So many people get the story nearly right, but too often they forget that you have to let the light shine for it to be the complete story." As he finished speaking, the candle began to flicker. A tiny golden flame jumped up and down in front of Albert's amazed eyes. "Don't forget now, will you?" said God. And Albert never did. And that's the end of our story. So I hope that you can remember what your Christingle stands for, and that you won't forget, and that you'll light your glow sticks and put them out in your windows tonight, so that everyone who sees your light will be reminded of Jesus, the light of the world, being born on Christmas morning. So I hope you've enjoyed our craft week, and I hope you're looking forward to Christmas Day tomorrow. And if you'd like to, you could come and join us this evening at 4 o'clock, where we're going to celebrate and bless our Christingles outside church. Bye.